Okay, another concept from Chapter 3. We've talked a lot about demand, we've talked a lot about supply, now we're going to talk about equilibrium, where we put them together. Equilibrium here is defined as the price-quantity combination where supply equals demand. Another way to say that, with a lot more words, is where the amount that sellers are willing and able to produce is exactly equal to the amount where buyers are willing and able to buy, the amount that buyers are willing and able to buy. Okay? So intuitively, you're looking at a price and quantity combination where the amount that buyers want to buy and the amount that sellers want to sell are the same. Now let's look at the picture over here for a minute and look at it a little differently, a graphical perspective rather than in words. I have our familiar cross of demand and supply here, that familiar X that you've read over and over again in Chapter 3 in McConnell. The cross has only one place where the two curves actually come together, and that's the big black dot in the middle. That's equilibrium, where the two curves cross. In some economics classes, maybe 300 and 400 level ones, we can talk about markets where supply and demand actually cross in more than one place, but nothing like that here, nothing quite that silly or complicated. Now, that's the place where they cross, and that means that at this quantity and at this price, the amount that buyers want to buy and the amount that sellers want to sell are the same. If you're not at that particular price-quantity combination, a Q star and a P star, then equilibrium isn't going to happen, and that price-quantity combination doesn't work. For example, look at the blue price up here. I've labeled it PA, that's for price above equilibrium. And if I draw a dotted line across there, it's pretty easy to see that the lines don't cross. The demand and the supply curve are different. The supply curve tells us that at that high price, that's the quantity supplied. And that's quite a large quantity. The demand curve tells us that at that high price, this is the amount that's demanded. And that's not so much. The law of supply and demand are working here. When price rises, suppliers are willing to sell more. When price rises, demanders don't want to buy as much. That creates for us at this high price a situation where the amount supplied and the amount demanded are different. The quantity supplied is quite a bit bigger than the quantity demanded, and that's a surplus. Okay. The opposite happens when price falls below equilibrium. At PB, my green price down here, if I draw a dotted line across, I see that if price is below equilibrium, well, the demand curve tells me how much buyers want to buy. The supply curve tells me how much sellers want to sell, businesses want to sell. And in this particular case, the quantity that buyers want to buy is quite a bit bigger than the quantity that sellers want to sell. That, in common terms, is a shortage. I was going to write down here deficit. That's what a lot of other folks call this sort of difference, but it's a shortage. In most cases, when you're talking about the short-run period of time, the way a business will react to a shortage or a surplus is adjusting price. Think of a car salesman, a car lot, where there are a bunch of cars sitting out there in inventory that just haven't been moving at all over the last few months. A natural reaction to that surplus, when the amount that buyers want to buy and the amount that sellers want to sell is so different, that excess inventory, the natural reaction for business is to put them on sale, that is to drop price. So in the guise of a surplus, what you'll see is price fall. On the other hand, when you've got a shortage, when you've got buyers lining up to purchase something because it's priced so well, what you'll often see is businesses reacting by increasing price. So in a shortage, what you'll see often happening is price rise. In a surplus, what you'll often see happening is price fall. We expect in markets that prices are generally moving to equilibrium, to the point where the amount that the buyer wants to buy and the amount that the business wants to sell is the same. Okay?